Today, we're diving into the world of financial crime, uncovering the stories of 10 famous figures who committed major financial offenses and got caught. From Ponzi schemes to insider trading, these high-profile cases rocked the world of finance and left their marks on history. Let's take a closer look at the scandals that turned these once-celebrated figures into criminals. 1. Bernie Madoff. One of the most notorious figures in financial crime, Bernie Madoff orchestrated the largest Ponzi scheme in history. Running a fraudulent investment business, he stole an estimated $65 billion from thousands of investors over decades. Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison in 2009, and his name has since become synonymous with financial fraud. The Madoff case shocked the financial world and prompted significant changes in regulations surrounding investment and banking practices. 2. Elizabeth Holmes, founder of the health tech company Theranos. Elizabeth Holmes made headlines for claiming that her company had developed revolutionary blood testing technology. However, it was later revealed that the technology didn't work as promised. Holmes was charged with wire fraud and conspiracy in 2021 after defrauding investors of hundreds of millions of dollars. She was convicted in 2022 and sentenced to 11 years in prison. 3. Martha Stewart. While not a traditional financial crime, Martha Stewart's insider trading scandal rocked the business world. In 2001, she was investigated for selling shares of the biotech company Clone Systems based on non-public information. Stewart was convicted in 2004 for obstruction of justice and lying to investigators, and she served 5 months in prison. Her case highlighted the importance of transparency in business dealings. 4. Alan Stanford. A financier and sponsor of sports, Alan Stanford was arrested in 2009 for running a Ponzi scheme similar to Bernie Madoff's but on a smaller scale. He defrauded investors of approximately $7 billion, promising high returns from a phony investment fund. In 2012, Stanford was sentenced to 110 years in prison for his role in the fraud. 5. Richard Scrushy. Richard Scrushy, the former CEO of HealthSouth, was convicted of inflating company earnings by nearly $2.7 billion to meet Wall Street expectations. This financial fraud led to Scrushy's conviction on charges of securities fraud, money laundering, and other offenses in 2005. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. HealthSouth's fraud scandal remains one of the biggest corporate accounting scandals in U.S. history. 6. Jordan Belfort. Known as the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort was convicted of securities fraud and money laundering in the 1990s. He ran a stock brokerage firm called Stratton Oakmont, where he defrauded investors through illegal stock manipulation and pump-and-dump schemes. Belfort was sentenced to 4 years in prison and was ordered to pay restitution to the victims. His life story was made into a blockbuster film, but the reality of his crimes remains a cautionary tale in the finance world. 7. Bernie Ebbers. Bernie Ebbers, the former CEO of WorldCom, was convicted of securities fraud and conspiracy in the early 2000s for his role in the massive $11 billion accounting scandal. Ebbers was sentenced to 25 years in prison in 2005 for overseeing the fraudulent reporting of the company's financial health. The scandal led to one of the largest bankruptcies in U.S. history at the time. 8. Tom Petters. Tom Petters, a Minnesota businessman, was convicted of running a Ponzi scheme in which he defrauded investors of approximately $3.65 billion. Petters falsely promised returns from his companies that supposedly sold consumer electronics to big-box retailers. In 2010, Petters was sentenced to 50 years in prison for his role in the scam. 9. Kenneth Lay and Jeffrey Skilling. The Enron scandal is perhaps one of the most infamous cases of corporate fraud in American history. Kenneth Lay and Jeffrey Skilling, Two top executives at the energy company Enron were convicted of conspiracy, securities fraud, and other charges related to the company's collapse in 2001. Enron's accounting fraud resulted in the loss of billions of dollars and thousands of jobs. Lay died before he could be sentenced, but Skilling was sentenced to 24 years in prison. 10th, R. Allen Stanford. Similar to Madoff, R. Allen Stanford was convicted of running a Ponzi scheme that involved selling fraudulent certificates of deposit to investors. With a net worth of around $2.5 billion at his peak, Stanford's scheme collapsed in 2009, and he was arrested and sentenced to 110 years in prison. His case brought attention to the regulation of offshore financial activities. These financial crimes serve as a reminder of the importance of honesty and transparency in business. Let us know your thoughts on these shocking cases in the comments below.